So I originally gave this Father's Day talk in 2012 here in the fellowship. And I revised it a little for this morning's talk. And in preparation for it, I spoke with several members of the fellowship here. Maybe you remember me talking with you. Dave, I think you were one of them. And I talked with my 4 siblings, my 3 children, my husband, and my father about their reflections on their fathers or of themselves and about fatherhood in general. And I also skimmed a few books about fathers, including Tim Russert's Wisdom of Our Fathers, Lessons and Letters from Daughters and Sons, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Thanks Dad, and How to Inspire, Understand, and Support Your Daughter When She's Growing Up So Fast, from Dads and Daughters by Joe Kelly. And what follows are the thoughts I gleaned from those conversations and those readings. And one of the main things I heard or read was how important a father figure is in a person's life. He could be a biological father or an uncle or a male friend who fills in as a father. A father figure can be critical in helping shape who a person becomes. His presence, either as a good role model or a bad role model, can impact some of the choices someone makes, like what spouse they choose or what career they choose. And most fathers acknowledge the important role they play in their children's lives and feel humbled and honored by it. Tim Russert said, "When my life is over, I know that the most important thing that I'll be judged by is what kind of father I was." And in Newsweek, remember Newsweek? In June 18, 2012, there was an article by comedian Arsenio Hall entitled, "Mornings with My Son, Why I Chose Fatherhood Over Fame." He spoke about how life-changing it can be to choose to be an active participant in your child's life. And he shared a conversation he had had with Will Smith, who said, "You do what you have to for your children's well-being and happiness. It's not about you anymore. It's about them." And in the foreword to Chicken Soup for the Soul, Thanks Dad, figure skater Scott Hamilton wrote, "The second you hear your first child cry, the world is forever different. You've been transformed. I'm now better than I have ever been because I have to be. This is a magnificent duty and honor all dads share." And unfortunately, as many of you know, there are many children with absent fathers. According to the U.S. Department of Census, 25% of U.S. children live without their fathers. And among single-parent families, only 18% of them are headed by fathers. And fatherless boys are twice as likely to drop out of school or go to jail, 4 times as likely to need treatment for emotional and behavioral problems, whereas girls with an involved father are twice as likely to stay in school and exhibit less anxiety and withdrawn behaviors. Daughters who perceive their fathers care a lot about them have significantly fewer suicide attempts, fewer instances of body dissatisfaction, depression, low self-esteem, substance use, and unhealthy weight. And I love this statistic, this one. According to the American Community Survey in 2017, there are nearly 40,000 households lucky enough to have 2 fathers raising children. And they're referring to gay fathers, not a stepfather and a father. Some of the folks I spoke with recognized that given how horribly their fathers parented, they were deliberate in selecting a husband who would not be like him, or they chose to parent their children in a different way than their father did. They chose to be more loving or more present than their fathers were. Many listed spending time with the family as the most important component of being a good father. They loved having their father home, being present, putting family first, and not working as much. Others commented about how they loved having their fathers help them with their homework, play with them, listen to them, attend their games, recitals, and concerts. They felt this sent the message of, "You are important to me. I value you." Jesse Jackson has commented, "Your child needs your presence, Presence, more than your presence, Presents. Even for those who said their father wasn't around a lot, they said they valued highly the time he was present, stating that those times were special. Another recurring theme in the words of others was the importance of fathers expressing their love in some way. Those whose fathers didn't do this said they longed for physical hugs and for their fathers saying the words, "I love you." A few said, "I wish he'd been more demonstrative of his emotions and feelings, more affectionate." My daughter Hannah related a story of how she loved that her papa would tell her frequently that he would always love her no matter what. And she tried to come up with reasons why he might not love her, such as, "Would you still love me if I killed someone?" and he would say, "I'd be disappointed in you, but I would still love you." Unconditional love from a father can be life-changing. Most were quick to forgive their fathers for their shortcomings. They would say, "Nobody's perfect," or "He did the best he could given his circumstances," or "He fathered how he was fathered." And they recognized that it was the culture he grew up in that made him not say, "I love you," or not be present as a father. And it was difficult for some who I talked to when they discovered that their father wasn't perfect and how he fell from the pedestal that they had put him on. But frequently it became a learning experience for them. Some were able to forgive their fathers, saying since their fathers forgave them when they made mistakes, they were able to forgive him. But somewhat surprising to me was how quickly some were able to forgive even when their fathers were spiteful, hateful, verbally, physically, and/or sexually abusive, or had disinherited them. This is a powerful love to allow for that to occur. One person said, "His rejection made me stronger. I had to work through it." Another said that he didn't look at what he did for his father as forgiveness, but rather as an act of compassion. He said forgiveness implies there was a wound that resulted in a scar, but with compassion, there is no wound and thus no scar. He was able to see his father for the person he is, accept, love, and revere him in his entirety. That is compassion. It was important to some who had rocky relationships with their fathers that they didn't leave unfinished business when their fathers died. They wrote letters to him, forgiving him, or sharing with him the impact he had on their lives. For some, this was healing. The importance of the father loving his spouse, or the mother of their children, was emphasized. A well-known quote by the longtime president of Notre Dame, Father Theodore Hesburgh, is, "The most important thing a father can do for his children is to demonstrate his love and admiration for their mother." My brother Phil believes he didn't do a very good job with this, with his first wife. He recognizes how this created a lot of tension in the household. He believes children need the security of a loving home, and the children need to be shown a model of a loving relationship. And he went on to say that witnessing this loving relationship helps the children in their relationships with their future or present spouse. Father and son relationships were emphasized in some of the books I read, but I was drawn to information about the father-daughter relationships, and especially as it relates to how a father can help his daughter make her way in a male-dominated world where there can be narrowly defined gender roles. According to Joe Kelly, who heads up Dads and Daughters, quote, "Every father can make a huge difference in his daughter's life. When we truly listen to our daughters, we help reduce the odds that our girls will be caught in a cultural straitjacket that limits their options and behavior because of their gender. We can fight the effects of the gender straitjacket by never requiring or expecting our daughters to wear it when they are with us, thus helping them feel a freedom they may not have elsewhere." Joe Kelly goes on to say, "Fathers influence how daughters see themselves. A girl whose father listens to and respects her will expect her life partner to listen to her and treat her well. Fathering a daughter with love and respect ensures she will choose people and situations that nourish her long after she's left our house. Kelly concludes, there's no greater legacy for us to leave our daughters. A good role model was mentioned frequently when folks described their fathers. Other descriptors included provider, power figure, omnipotent, good listener, supportive, smart, kind, compassionate, patient, forgiving, hard worker, co-partner in parenting, nurturer, playful, guide, strong, tender, wise counsel, good grandfather, teacher of responsibility. He set a good example and set high standards. He could always fix things or make things right. He laid a solid foundation, and he encouraged my independence. Obviously, fathers are held in high regard, and a lot is expected of them, a lot of pressure on them. I spoke with my son-in-law, Dilip Bora, about his reflections on fatherhood in India. Historically and culturally, fathers have not been involved in taking care of children. Gender roles tend to be stricter in regard to expecting the father to go to work and the mother to tend to the children. But as has happened in the US with more urbanization and education, the gender roles have become more fluid. But in the smaller villages in India, gender roles are still strictly enforced. And it is also not part of the culture in India to express one's feelings or to say, I love you, but to rather show your love through actions and through the many, many, many rituals or ceremonies. Sorry to leave a little commentary. Relationships between father and his children was much more utilitarian, with the father directing, particularly the son, to work with him in the fields. And as a rule in India, fathers pay much more attention to their sons than to their daughters, especially as the daughters approach puberty. But Dilip has enjoyed seeing a softening in his father as his father became a grandfather. And he now spends much more time with family. So I want to shift gears now and share reflections on my father. He was not present a lot when I was growing up, as I believe he saw his career as United Methodist minister as his primary role. But I still felt loved by him, and I enjoyed the times he was present. He was playful. I remember when I was little, and he would come home from a long day at work, and he'd lift me up, and he'd tuck my feet in his arms, and he'd rock me back and forth upside down like an old grandfather clock. And he would play foursquare out in the driveway with his 5 children. And during vacation up at the cottage, we'd play volleyball in the backyard, and then we'd play keep away in the lake. And then we always ended the day on vacation with a good card game. He was pretty competitive, but he made the games fun, for the most part. He was loving and thoughtful. Frequently, he would send letters to family members after a family gathering to list all the wonderful things that occurred at the gathering and thank each one of us for our unique contribution. And throughout my adult years, he organized at least 2 separate occasions where we went around the room and said what we loved about each member of the family. And he wrote it down on a newsprint that was hanging up. And then he would give us that newsprint when it was over. And we all cherished those comments and appreciated that he provided the space and the setting to allow this to happen. He was always welcoming to others in our family, as Jack can attest, since he came into my life when he was 16. He referred to his son-in-laws and daughters-in-law as sons and daughters in love. And as a minister, he married all 5 of his children and at least 1 of his grandchildren. And at the weddings, he spoke about how the family circle with each addition gets stronger and how our love grows and grows. And he was a romantic. My oldest sister, Sally, who many of you have met, recalled the memory of my dad coming home from work and taking my mother in his arms and dancing around the room with her, and then doing the same with Sally. And frequently he would buy my mother negligees, flowers, and cards professing his love. And he continued bringing her flowers well into her years of advanced dementia. He instilled in all of his children and grandchildren his love of music. We grew up singing around the campfire or around the kitchen table up at the cottage a variety of camp songs or Christmas carols. And we grew up with musicals playing in the background. He would save the money he made from funerals and weddings and use that money to take my mother to New York and see musicals on Broadway. And then they would buy the album of the musical and come home and we would play them for hours at home. But what I admire most about my father is how, as a man born in 1920 and raised in a traditional farm family, he was able to embrace and encourage his 3 strong daughters as they became professional, independent, feminist women who married feminist men. He worked hard to change his language to gender-neutral words, way before that was PC to do that. And he supported our individual journeys and seemed to be very proud of us. When I asked him before he died in 2013 how he felt he was as a father, he said he felt good about giving us each a chance to express ourselves and allowing us to make mistakes. My father was a proud man and took a lot of pride in his accomplishments, as well as those of his children and grandchildren. He commonly would brag a lot to his friends, and I found this to be quite embarrassing. My dad liked to have his ego stroked, and he loved to be adored by others. And this had an effect on his children, who all struggled to find a balance between humility and having enough ego to know who we are. My sister Sally related that she had trouble tooting her own horn, sometimes to her detriment. She wanted to be successful, but not too full of herself. When asked to reflect on his time as a father, my dad used words such as great enjoyment, absolute thrill to see my children achieving. I basked in their achievements. I feel really fortunate to have had a loving and supportive father, and I'm sure this has contributed to my confidence and success as a person. But as I mentioned, my father was a proud man, and as he aged and then went on hospice, he lost a lot of his abilities and faculties. He could no longer accomplish things about which he took pride. He became totally dependent upon others for all of his cares, including dressing, bathing, toileting. And just imagine how difficult it must have been for him about 2 years before he died at age 93, when he was at my home for our entire Strosahl gathering at Christmas time. And he had to ring a bell at his bedtime several times in the middle of the night so that I, his youngest, could come and help pull down his diaper and help him with his urinal so he could relieve himself. I don't think my father changed too many of my diapers when I was a baby, but this does symbolize kind of how life is a cycle or a circle. Now I'd like to share some reflections on my husband as a father. He's loving and forgiving. He sets high standards and has high expectations for our children. But as my son Richie said, I respect him for this. In my daughter Claire's words, he did a damn good job as a father. That was in 2012, Claire. He tells them he loves them regularly. He's physically affectionate and hugs his daughters and his son. My children affectionately call him Papa or Popsy. I have fond memories of him sleeping on the couch with each of our babies asleep on his chest. And he loved giving our kids swings in a blanket. The kids would get into a blanket and he would just swing them back and forth. This was a ritual every night before bed or until they got too heavy for him to do it. He spent hours reading to our children. And the kids appreciated his help with homework and the fact that he could always fix things or work something out that was wrong. And as they were growing up, he worked hard and long hours at the clinic and the hospital, but was very present with the kids when he was home. He didn't have other hobbies, such as hunting or golf or other ball games that took him away, so he was either at work or at home. He's a good listener, a hard worker, is very responsible, and in this way, an excellent role model. He was an active co-parent. I read a lot of parenting books as the children were growing up, and he would follow my lead, which I appreciated. He learns well, always quick to ask for forgiveness. He loves and supports me, and the kids all said that they respect him for that. I worried about my daughters being able to find spouses who would live up to the high standard that Jack set, though fortunately they both have found amazing men who respect and appreciate my daughters and respect and appreciate Jack. Lastly, a few comments about sons or some of you becoming fathers. I've not had the privilege yet of my son becoming a father. Thank goodness, if you're listening, Richie. But just last week, I had the privilege of speaking with two new fathers. And am I getting feedback here because of this? And here are some of the things they said when reflecting on their experiences as fathers. One said he found the whole experience fascinating. He loves watching his daughter figure things out and experiencing life for the first time. He said he's having a blast. It's fun. He mentioned, though, that life is a lot smellier now than it used to be, but he doesn't get grossed out by odors anymore. He does have a new appreciation for the washing machine, though. The other new father said being a father was so rewarding and gave his life and his work a higher purpose. Becoming a father changed his perspective on things. He looks forward to coming home from work and spending time with his daughter. They both agree that they now, for the first time as men in their mid to late 30s, finally feel like an adult. In speaking with men whose sons have become daughters, they appreciate the younger generation's style of co-parenting with more involvement by the father. They spoke of witnessing a better balance between work, family, and self-care. They enjoy seeing evidence of their own parenting skills put to use and how their sons incorporated things they did as parents, along with finding their own style. Many spoke about how proud they are of their sons and how they love seeing the joy of their son as a new father. They delight in seeing the relationship between their son and his children. I will close with a poem about fathers written by my brother-in-law, Jim Kellerman, who's spoken here twice. He's a retired United Methodist minister, as were his father and his father-in-law. And Jim is a wonderful father of 2 and a grandfather of 4. Fathers. Fathers are birthed in the burgeoning life of the next generation. They are unfolded over time and recast every morning. They are called forth by the rapid vibration of a beating heart of an infant pressed to the chest. They are shaped in the small hands of a child who is holding on to a finger for stability. They are stretched out in a race with short legs that follow you and lead you. They are watered by tears from an infant for whom your only gift is the strength of your arm and heart, and for whom you may not hold the ultimate and required fix. They are strung like pearls on a rope, word by word, in a story that has no end, but is repeated nightly. They are baked into macaroni and cheese. They are shaped by tools powered by love that guides and teaches, produces, and builds with an ever-vigilant audience of small faces. They are expanded with pride with each step, each note, each stage presence, each sprint, each stroke, each word, each verse, with every achievement that is celebrated and with every failure that is surmounted. Then suddenly, so suddenly, they are being repeated in another generation, and fathers are awed in their rebirth. Thank you.